namaha. Now, in this segment, let's turn to our dental consonants, also called the dantyas or the ta varga in Sanskrit. The dentals are very, very common characters, I should say. So you want to make sure that you pay attention and that you nail these down as soon as you can. The first of the dentals is our unvoiced, unaspirated takara. To make our takara, there's 3 steps that are involved. First, you want to start about halfway down and then make a kind of slight curl or a bend that goes downward and to the left. Step 2 is now to draw a vertical bar that starts from your top line on the page and goes all the way down but touches that bend curl that you had made on its right end point. And then extend it all the way down to the bottom of your space. Now, step 3 is to draw your top line, and you're finished. You have your takara. Now, in terms of your first step, by the way, you can go from right to left like I just showed you how to do. Some people also make the curl going left to right and kind of going upwards and to the right. In fact, I actually end up writing it that way often. It's kind of up to you which direction to go, whichever you feel more comfortable doing. Just make sure that whatever you make ends up looking like what you see here, and you'll be fine. Now, the next thing we have is our unvoiced, aspirate dental, our takara. The takara is also kind of fun, I'm not going to lie. It's my number 2 favorite consonant, maybe. It's unusual in that the ta is going to break the top line. To make it start at that top line, then make a loop that goes above the top line. It should be kind of like a little tiny head or of a dinosaur, the way I like to think about it, that goes above and then is going to come below the top line. When you close the circle, you want to keep going downwards in kind of a boat shape or like a brontosaurus shape, the way I like to think of it, kind of sharp concave curl that'll extend back further than that top loop and will end up about halfway down from the top line. Now, then you make your vertical bar on the right side that goes downwards, touches the end point of that dinosaur shape or boat shape that you just made, going down all the way. Finally, you make your top line. Again, like I mentioned, make sure that you don't let that touch the loop that you had made, the head of your dinosaur. That head of the dinosaur is going to be poking up above the top line. So that's your takara. Next, we're going to have our voiced, unaspirated dental, the dakara. This is similar to shapes that we had last time, the dakara, but with an extra tail that I'd warned you against last time. The da has 2 steps that you use to make it. Step 1 is that you start at the top line, go down about a quarter of the way, then you make a C shape that's open towards the right. But at the end, you want to make a loop and then extend the line below the C shape that you made, turning it into a little tail. The tail should be made clearly so that it differentiates it from the da, otherwise it looks exactly like a da. Step 2 then is to make your top line, and you've got yourself a dakara. The next dental is the voiced aspirate, the dakara. It's a very common letter. Like the takara, it also breaks the top line. It's an essential feature of this letter. If you don't do that line breaking, it actually can look like another letter that we had, the gara, in our first class of consonants. So be careful to make sure you make that break. It also has some variation that's worth learning. Let's look at how it's printed first, and I'll show you the most sort of common way that it's written in handwritten form. In the print version, there's 3 steps. First, you start at the top line. You make a kind of little double curl like we'd done with the gara that opens up towards the right and basically looks like a backwards number 3. Then you make a vertical bar going down on the right side and making sure that the vertical bar touches the end point of that double curve that you had made, the backwards 3, right at kind of the middle. Step 3 then is to make your top line, but now be careful here. There's basically like 2 top lines. There should be an opening within that double curl that you made. It's important that you preserve that opening because that's the only difference between the dhakara and the ghakara, the velar aspirate. They look exactly the same otherwise, except for that break in the top line. Now, that's kind of confusing. So there's an alternate way of writing the dhakara. This is how it's usually done, actually, in modern languages like Marathi or Hindi, so that it clearly looks different from the ghakara. The process is almost exactly the same, except you start by making a tiny little head or a circular loop that's going to go above the top line, just like you did with our dhakara dinosaur, if you remember that. Then you continue on with the double curl, that backwards 3, extend out horizontally. Then you make your vertical bar that touches the bottom of that backwards 3 about halfway down. And finish with the top line now that doesn't touch the loop, same way that we had done with our dhakara. I'd actually encourage you when you're writing to make your dhas like this with a loop on top so that it's easier to make and it's easier to read. When you're reading a text, though, you're often going to encounter that first form of the dha that we learned that doesn't have that loop, and you have to learn to recognize it. Okay, the last member in this class is the dental nasal, the Nucara. It's a pretty easy character to write. Start about halfway down from the top line. Make a closed little ball going clockwise. Our font here doesn't have an open ball shape, but your handwriting, when you handwrite it, you should make that it makes a little ball, basically. Then you make a horizontal, extend that ball, making a horizontal going towards the right. The next step is to make a vertical bar so that it touches our horizontal kind of halfway down in the vertical. And then step 3 is to finish it off with your top line. So there you have it, the Nucara. These are the dentals. We have one more consonant class left, the labials, or the Pa varga, before we turn our attention to the semivowels and sibilants and then other stuff on ahead. But first, study these dentals, write them down 3 or 4 times or more so that you kind of get to learn them. You're going to see them quite often. When you feel good about it, when you feel good about all the other classes that you've learned so far, then let's turn our attention to the very easy and straightforward Pa varga. So thank you for watching. See you next time. Punarmilamaha. Dhanyavadaha.